I always wanted to create landscapes, and I did a bit of that in UDK, but I never got to fully experience creating the landscapes that I wanted. I never got to learn the full features of the UDK landscape system. So when UE4 came out, I avoided working with landscapes. And it was probably because I didn't want to fail like I did when I worked with UDK. And a few times when I did try, the results were horrible. I completely sucked at creating landscapes, and it made me not want to continue. And as the years went by, and the newer versions of UE4 kept being released, I just kept ignoring working with landscapes. But like most things that I do, I usually reach a breaking point, where if I keep ignoring something that I know I could do, but I just haven't done it, I end up hitting that point where I drop everything that I'm working on, and I say I'm going to figure this thing out, and I'm going to finally learn how to create this. And it happened with the pipes a couple of years ago. It happened with creating custom static meshes. And now it has happened again with UE4 landscapes. So last year is when I hit this breaking point. I had to learn and figure out how to create UE4 landscapes. So for about 6 months, I immersed myself into learning everything I could about UE4 landscape system. But everything I do, I don't do in isolation, and I don't keep it a secret. I have to share what I've learned. So my 6-month immersion became a tutorial course. I put everything I've learned into UE4 Fundamentals Volume 2, the essential beginner's guide to creating landscapes entirely inside UE4. So for the rest of this video, I'm going to share with you what's included in this course and what you will expect to learn from it. So this course is split into 2 modules. It contains over 30 videos and over 5 hours of content. You don't need any external software, and everything is done inside UE4. First module is focused on creating and sculpting landscapes, and the second module is focused on creating landscape materials and painting textures in your terrain. So here's what's covered in module 1 and what you will learn from it. You can skip the rest of this video and download the course right now by clicking on the link in the description box, or going straight to worldofleveldesign.com/store. So in this first module, we're going to focus on how to create your landscapes, how to decide and choose different size landscapes, and how to sculpt them. I'm going to show you how to use every sculpting tool so you can begin to form and shape your landscapes. So the first video is very simple, and we're going to cover how to set up a project so we're on the same page. We're going to create this new project, choose a template so we have a way to spawn inside the map and test our scale. We'll include starter content because we're going to use some textures from starter content to create our landscape materials in the second module. Then after that, I'm going to take you through the steps of creating your very first landscape. This way, in the shortest time possible, you'll know how to create a landscape and begin working with it. Then we're going to cover a guide to landscape sizes. This is a very important video because there's a lot of confusion of what to choose when you're setting up the size of your landscape. There are a lot of options to choose from. You have section size, sections per component, number of components, overall resolution, and total components. And in this video, we're going to go into detail of what each means and what you should choose. And it's going to be a video that you can always come back to as you gain more experience creating and using landscapes. So this is an extremely important video with a lot of technical insight and technical information that you need to know about landscapes in UE4. Then I will show you how to navigate around large landscapes. You will learn how to adjust camera speed and set up camera bookmarks so you can quickly jump to them. Then we'll begin covering the sculpting tools. The first tool is going to be Sculpt, and you will learn how to modify the shape of the landscape, how to raise to create hills and mountains, and how to lower to create dips and valleys. You'll learn how to use regular brushes, as well as alpha and pattern brushes, which allow you to use a texture as a brush. So the Sculpt tool is what you will primarily use to modify and shape your terrain. Then we'll cover the Smooth tool, which will help you to soften your landscape and any drastic changes within the height map. Then we'll cover the Flatten tool, which will allow you to flatten any part of the terrain to a specific height. You'll learn how to create ramps using the Ramp tool, which is very helpful when you want to create a roadway or a walkway to a certain height. Then we'll cover the Noise tool, which is a filter that creates random variation in the landscape. And you can use the Noise tool for two things: to add detail or to create entire landscapes by using a very large brush and adjusting a few settings. Then you'll learn how to use the Erosion tool, which is extremely helpful for adding realism and detail to your landscape. There are two types of erosion tools we're going to cover, and these are thermal erosion and hydro erosion, and I will show you how to use both. After that, we're going to do a landscape sculpting exercise, where we take everything we learned so far and put it into practice by manually sculpting and forming the terrain. I'm going to show you what to do, how to get started, which tools to use, and in what order. Then for the next few videos, we're going to cover the region tools. These include the selection, which allows you to select a section of a landscape to be used as a mask for other tools. Then copy and paste tool, where you can take a section of a landscape you already created, copy it, and paste it somewhere else, allowing you to quickly create your landscape by duplicating one section. And then we'll cover the mirror tool, where you can mirror a part of a landscape on Y or X axes, which is another great tool where you can quickly duplicate already modified and shaped parts of the landscape. After that, we're going to cover how to manage your landscape by adding additional landscapes, removing or adding components, or modifying and resampling existing landscapes. Then we'll cover how to use the spline tool to create roads, pathways, and then we're going to finish up with a few tips and techniques for how big you should make your landscape to determine the right scale you need. So this first module is going to get you started to create and sculpt your landscapes. And here's what's covered in the second module and what you will learn from it. So in the first video, we're going to set up our initial landscape material and create a few base color layers. This is going to be our starting point. Then I'm going to show you how to apply your material onto the landscape and how to create landscape layer info, which will allow you to paint the created landscape layers onto your terrain. Then we're going to cover how to actually paint those layers on the landscape. So we're going to begin to explore the painting tools within the landscape mode, such as the Paint tool, the Smooth tool, the Flatten tool, and the Noise tool. Then you will learn how to control tiling for the landscape layers, because all your textures applied to the landscape and painted will have the default tiling, and that texture repetition is going to be very noticeable. After that, I'm going to show you how to add normal maps to your landscape material so you have some detail on each layer. Then we'll add roughness, so each layer is not that shiny and it looks more realistic. And then I'm going to show you a few tips on how to maintain organization inside the material editor, because as you begin to expand your material, the expressions inside the material editor and different connections can get very messy. Then I will show you how to create holes inside your landscape using the visibility tool, and this will allow you to create holes so the player can go underneath and into your landscape. And this is perfect for things like tunnels, underground architecture, or caves. Then we'll cover Retopologize tool, which is actually under the Sculpt menu, and it helps to reduce texture stretching for very extreme areas such as steep cliffs by readjusting the vertex density in those areas. And then you will learn how to create and set up a material instance. And this is a child of the master landscape material that will allow you to adjust certain properties for your landscape material in real time without you having to wait for compiling materials and compiling shaders. and this will speed up your workflow tremendously. And a material instance for your landscape is something you're going to be using from here on out. Then will come a very important video, and it will explain everything you need to know about different landscape layer blends that you find inside the material editor and that you have to set for each layer, such as weight blend, alpha blend, and height blend. And you have to do this for each layer you create, and you have to understand what they are and what each of them do. And then I'm going to show you 2 layer infos that you have to create for each layer before you paint. And these are weight blended layer normal and a non-weight blended layer. And you have to know which one to choose based on the blend type that you have set. So this is going to be a very important video that will go into the technical aspects of your material, of each layer, and the correct layer info to choose so your landscape material works properly. And I see a lot of confusion about these 2 topics and a lot of incorrect information about what each of them do and how to correctly use them. So this video will tell you everything you need to know that I haven't seen covered before. And then in the last video, you're going to learn how to create a material that will have a different tiling up close and different tiling far away. This will help to reduce noticeable texture repetition depending on the distance of the player to the landscape. Otherwise, your textures will usually look good up close, but then you will have very noticeable repetition far away. And in this video, I'm going to show you how to control that distance tiling for textures up close and for textures far away. So by the end of this module, you will learn how to create your landscape materials, how to set up proper layers, how to set up layer blend types, layer info, how to paint those different layers onto your landscape, and how to make your material and your landscape layers look good on your terrain. Download this essential guide to UE4 landscapes. You'll find the link in the description box below, or you can go to worldofleveldesign.com/store and you'll find it there to download.